This is Jim Lawler with Pace University, and I have my colleague Anthony Joseph. Could you say hello to everyone, Anthony?
Everyone, this is Anthony.
Yeah, and my student Arun. Could you say good morning to everyone, Arun?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Arun here. It's nice to be here.
Good. Thank you for coming to our session. I hope this will be educational and enjoyable for all of you. It's about a program that we began about 2 years ago in connection with the Tello University in Helsinki, Finland. It's a customization of a program from there that we introduced into our school at Pace University, which is the Seidenberg School of Computer Science and Information Systems. And it's cross-disciplinary, it's interdisciplinary, and it's about college students becoming consultants or entrepreneurs on projects decided by them, okay? And so we're gonna discuss that with you. And if we go to the next slide, we do have a bit of bad news. Okay, we're planning to have a quiz at the end, okay? I mean, this is not a Mickey Mouse session. We're gonna have a quiz for all of you, okay? So on the next slide, both Anthony and Arun will also be presenting with me. Good morning, Gomia, how are you? All right, on the next slide. Okay, so this is a course that's about community concerns, about community engagement by students on projects decided by them, all right? I have the students as though they're consultants or entrepreneurs addressing concerns of the community that are decided by them. The projects are not for actual organizations. That's one of the enhancements we're planning. So it's projects they develop in the course of a semester. The semester is for 14 weeks on Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., currently on Zoom. And it's for what we believe are exceptional experiences for the students that they do not acquire in most of their other courses of the university. But an emphasis of this particular program will be on diversity. And I'll explain to you how we do that. So on the next slide, okay, it's about mixing students from different majors, from different schools of our university, and have them together on teams. Most of the students have never met the other students. Most students in a school of our university do not meet students from the other schools of the university until graduation. And this is so different than other courses in how we particularly do this. So on the next slide, so this is Pace University. We're in downtown New York, and we're also uptown in Westchester. This course is downtown. Another colleague, Dr. Andrea, she has this course in Westchester. But these are students from the campus downtown, and they're all on Zoom. The university closed, actually, the campus the other day because the public schools closed in the city. So all of this is on Zoom. If not on Zoom, it would have been in the classrooms at the university in downtown New York. So on the next slide, we're in the Seidenberg School of Computer Science and Information Systems, but this is a course for all students of the university. So I'd like Dr. Joseph to continue presenting for a number of the slides. So Anthony, could you continue?
The program is housed in the School of Computer Science and Information Systems. And the program is experiential, and it brings together students from the business school and the liberal arts schools mixed with students from computer. And the projects that they engage in are multidisciplinary. And next slide. And so talking about the business school, there's a new dean, and his picture is there. I think this semester is his first semester. And the business school have several programs, both at the bachelor's level and graduate level. Programs include accounting, finance, entrepreneurship, management, uh, information systems also, actually. Next slide. This, the Dyson School or the School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, there's many programs, and some of them range from, that school offered a core curriculum for all students, and programs include acting, racial and ethnic studies, economics, chemistry, applied and theoretical physics, history, biology, in forensic science, simply to name a few. Next slide. The diversity dividend. So it is found that diversity helps in numerous ways in terms of building a better mousetrap, for lack of a better term, greater return on investment for companies, as well as simply doing things better because you have diverse ideas. Next slide. And finally, the objective of the program is for students to learn from other students and from other students' disciplinary perspectives. And the projects, the teams are self-directed, and the projects are chosen by the students to address problems that are important to people, in other words, societal problems. And now I return things back to my colleague, Dr. Lawler.
All right. What is also different about this program, for those of you who were not at the FRN a number of years ago, at the FRN a number of years ago, I attended a session by Dr. Yanni from NYU, where he introduced the concept of mentors as professors. So in this particular course, as I said, it's 14 weeks on Thursdays, 10 to 1 p.m. It's a 3-credit course. And I function not as a lecturer, but as a mentor. So I do hardly any lectures at all. I do have a book. It's called Passion-Centered Design Projects. It's from Otello University, and it's also free on the internet. You could email me if you'd like the URL for it. But importantly, I do not lecture. I function as a hidden member of each of the teams. There'll be 5 teams per semester, which I'll discuss shortly. But I'm a mentor. I'm a hidden member of the team to help them gel on their particular teams and to help them learn the perspectives of other students and to also monitor the projects. But also importantly, the students monitor the projects through contracts that they have to do on their teams. And the outcomes are in what we call reflection reports that they do at the end of the semester, like almost any community engagement course. And then the results, Arun will be sharing those with you later. So what's different here, I'm functioning as a mentor, not as a lecturer. The next slide, Arun, please. So each semester, so this is from fall 2019, we concluded fall 2020 yesterday. So there's an average of 25 students. And what I do at the beginning of the semester, I put them into 5 teams based on diversity. It's a deliberate diversity. So I do not have all computer science students on one team or all business students on one team. I mix them in. I include dance students and music students. Also, I do not have all females on one team or all males on one team, or students from one school on one team. All right, it's a very deliberate diversity that I do at the very beginning. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Arun. So these are statistics from fall 2019. So there's a mix of Caucasian, African American, Middle Eastern students, Asian American, European, Hispanic. As I brought up earlier, most students at our university, we're a commuter university, so most students are employed part-time, and they do not mix a lot with students of other schools of the university. But in this course, I begin a deliberate diversity based on demographics, and then on the next slide, Arun, and based on discipline. So even though, as Anthony discussed, even though we're doing this from the School of Computer Science and Information Systems, and more than a third of the students are computer science information system students, all the other students are coming from the other schools of the university, business, health, liberal arts. Okay. On the next slide. Okay, so then there's a mix of gender also. 60% of our students are female, and the other percentages are in male and unidentified, as defined by the students. So I mix them into the teams also. And then on the next slide, and then the particular school, then the particular years, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So at the very beginning, as best I can, it's not always perfect, I try to have every student different on those particular teams. And then what I do on the next slide, I do activities to help them gel. At any time, if any student would like to move to another team, they can do that with no questions asked. So I do different activities. I have students cook breakfast. I have students cook lunch. We do dinners optionally, and we do escape rooms. So escape rooms is where pre-pandemic, we would go to a particular vendor in the neighborhood who has an escape room, which consists of different rooms, in which I would break the students by the teams into these rooms to solve problems. And that would be for a full class. Currently, we cannot do that physically, but we can do it remotely. And there's quite a number of vendors that are on the web that do this. So if you're also interested in this, you could email me. And this is an opportunity for them to solve problems that are not immediately solvable and where they have to rely on the others on the team to solve those problems. Okay? And then on the next slide. So what happens then, in the first few weeks, I asked the class as a group to identify projects that they would like to do. And so we come up with probably almost as many as 25 projects. And then I asked the students to begin to do mini presentations to advocate for those projects by the teams. Okay, so each team will probably have maybe 3 to 5 projects to present. And then we do voting to vote on which projects should be done by the class. All right, and the teams have to pitch their particular projects, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or even 5 projects. And then the projects condense to 5 based on the voting. All right, and so each team then is responsible for that particular project for the full semester. And then they're going to present a presentation at the end of the semester, which was done yesterday. But I'll explain that a little bit later. So examples of projects, okay, was an app for client change, an app for infections, which when this began wasn't actually for COVID, a market for homeless people, a Metro card for disabled low-income people, and minority-owned partnership restaurant. All the projects are decided by the students, not by me, because they're in so-called directed teams. All right, on the next slide. All right, so now what would the project consist of? Okay, there's a consistent format that the students know at the beginning of the semester. And then each of the teams, for each of the 5 students on the teams, identify what portion of the projects they would like to do. Again, decided by them. So the project would consist of areas like elevator pitches, abstracts, key definitions, client competitor markets, client need statements, a field survey, publication research sources, storyboarding, prototyping, financial benefits, non-financial benefits, value propositions, elevator pitches. Those of you in New York, there's a channel called Shark Tank, okay, where people pitch proposals for products to be funded by venture capitalists. We are emulating that. That is what we're doing here. We also call this the Design Factory program. So all the students decide who will do what, and they do contracts that they have to sign. The contracts have to be approved by the other members of the team and then by me, all right? But I let the students do it, all right? And generally, I approve what they decide upon. And then every week, they have the contracts that they can look at in terms of deliverables that are due for that particular class. Now, that's the theory of it. All right, let me show you. Let's begin on the next slide. And I'll share with you 2 projects. Now, what's important about the projects is more of the so-called storyboarding and on the prototyping. So they're pitching a particular product to be funded, okay? I mean, this is fiction, but they're presenting a product that they desire to be funded by venture capitalists. The storyboarding will be a story about customers coming onto the particular product, which I'll show you shortly. And the prototyping would be the actual product. It doesn't necessarily have to be a system. Most of the time, it's not a system because we have the other non-computer science and information system students on there to keep the computer science and information system students honest. So the prototyping could be an actual app. All right, the students might elect to code it, maybe with 1 or 2 of the computer science information system students on the teams. But generally, it's more of a simulation. It's not an actual app, okay? And it will consist of screens and scenarios on those screens, all right? And then also the critical aspects in terms of pitching this psychologically would be the beginning of the 10-second pitch and the ending of 30-second pitch, okay? So let me show you what we have. I'll show you 2 apps. Let's go to the next slide, Arun. All right, so one app began as an app purely for infections, and then gradually it began to be one for COVID. So let me show you the storyboard. Now, all of this has been done by the students. So they begin on the next slide, Arun. Okay, they begin with an elevator pitch. So this particular app is called Wellbeing. Makes it easier to monitor health, convenient for patients, forget waiting in the waiting room, convenient, save time, and such. These are in the words of the students. So this is, they all do an elevator pitch of some type. And then on the next slide would be the storyboard. So the storyboard here, again, done by the students. All of you can do this. All of you can have your students do this. There's different tools that do this. Okay, what they're presenting here is approximately 1 to 3 scenarios that explain the particular product that they're pitching. All right, and it's as visual as it could be. A lot of what they're doing here is more visual than textual. All right, in terms of pitching their products. So this is partially an appointment app. It's a reminder app. It's a scheduling app, and it's for all types of people, not upper income people, but also lower income people in the community. On the next slide. So the next slide about a person desiring to get an appointment, to get particular types of shots, but also attempting to learn if he or she has a particular illness. So this was customized by the students almost at the last minute in late December, early January. So click here for COVID information, click here for more info. All right, this is only the storyboard. I'll show you the prototype very shortly. Okay. And again, this is the students doing it. On the next slide. Okay, so this is a continuance of the storyboard where they're beginning to introduce the actual app. 80% chance you have a headache. Keep monitoring for symptoms, all right? And this is what the students are proposing. And then on the next slide, okay, the next slide, the students have a game for the other students in the class where they pretend that there might be a certain type of illness that they may have that might be illustrated by the functionality of the app. And then on the next slide, all right, so the next slide is the app. For these particular students, they did an actual app, all right, because they had a computer science information system student on the team, okay, whose contract was to do this particular app based on the design of the other students from the storyboard, all right? And then let me show you another app that was done. We'll go to the next slide. All right, and so to summarize, they do the pitching at the beginning and at the end. Now on the next slide, okay, this is a Metro card for disabled people in the city. All right, with additional functionality not furnished by the New York City Transit Authority, not furnished by the city government. So it's a bit of a customization of an app that the subway does have for people, but it's not focused on disabled people nor lower income people. All right, so let's look at the pitch that they had for this. And again, these are the words of the students. I never change what the students are presenting. I might give them ideas. I do copy editing as best I can, but I do not take away from their creativity and imagination. Refill your card. Do not miss the train. Refill your card with a few taps on a smartphone. All right, that's their pitch. And then the storyboard on the next slide. All right. So they're on another type of tool for the visualization. A person needs to get to the office, needs to add time to the Metro card. All right. Maybe because they're lower income, maybe they had not paid for the previous service of the subway. But this has an option to allow them to actually receive the fares on here through the card, okay? Downloading the app, connecting info from the subway system. And then on the next slide, so the next slide, finding the information, helping them through it, very easy to navigate, where the contention of the students was the app that's offered by the subway is not that friendly for people and not as literate as it might be maybe for lower income people, and definitely not for disabled people. Okay, and then on the next slide, more of the same. Refill your card from any location, not having to go like to the booth at the subway station or not having to go to the headquarters of Subway in the event of particular problems. All right, so those are the storyboards by the student. Let's go to the next slide, Arun. And this is this app was not an actual app. This was, whereas the first app was actual. In other words, it was programmed by the team. This one was not programmed by the team because they did not have any computer science or information system students on the team. And this was done by them. So these are screens that were simulated by them as to how their app would function for this particular population. This is their prototype. There's more screens behind this, but this gives you a picture of what was done by them as to their prototype. All right, let's go to the next slide. And so the next slide, so now they have the pitch again, but it's a little bit different, okay? Contributes to the future, help. A lot of them began to include more info relating to the virus as well. More accessible to the public, increasing the profitability of the subway and such. Again, these are the words of the students. All right, and then the next slide. So what you've seen here is these are examples of projects done by the students in the self-directed teams. A challenge that I've always had with doing projects like this is how do you know they're actually doing the projects? So I do the contracts that I brought up. They manage the contracts, but I also manage them, by reviewing how they're coming along. But every class is very similar. So I begin with the general session, whether it's pre-pandemic or pandemic. The general session is probably for about 15 minutes. And then the bulk of the class are breakout groups by the students, whether in the classrooms or on the sessions on Zoom. And then for the final 30 minutes of the class, they do mini presentations as to how they're coming along. This gives them an opportunity to see how the other teams are coming along, and it gives me an opportunity to evaluate them in terms of who's contributing to what. But the final product of this are these formal pitch presentations that they're going to be doing incrementally week by week. And again, to the so-called audience of venture capitalists, to which I invite other professors and other students at the university. All right, on the next slide. And the beauty of this is that we also partner with the Entrepreneurship Lab of the business school, where students can do preliminary pitch presentations to other people in the business school to have others tell them what they think of their presentations. And then on the next slide. So like I said, we're functioning almost like this Shark Tank program in the city where people are coming up with ideas, they're pitching the ideas, and they have to justify those ideas. And that's what I'm attempting to have the students do. But also for them to do them with other people that they would not have normally met at the university. And let's see the next slide. Okay, so the students, in terms of what they're learning, or what they're informing me as to what they're learning in the reflection reports that they do at mid-semester and at the end of the semester, they're learning more human skills. They're also learning skills of technology, but they're learning a lot more than they would in their other courses where they're with other students only like them, particularly with the particular majors and schools. And I think Arun has the next slide. He would like to tell you what it's like being a student in the course. So Arun, I've been doing a lot of talking. So can you do a bit more talking on this slide, please?
Sure, definitely. Being not just a student, but also an assistant to Professor Lawler, and being a tech head myself, the kind of projects and ideas that these students, even from a multidisciplinary field that they come from, is actually quite brilliant that they actually come up with. The one that I can actually say on top of my mind is there was a project that said it's the name, they call it AirShare, and the entire concept was based on wireless charging, something that people will not require wires or even a magnetic puck like what's being sold today. The entire concept that they designed was if they come into a room, there are magnetic fields in and around where you just keep a phone on a table and it automatically charges. Knowing that a very rudimentary technology is still currently there, where people require wires and a stand where they actually have to put their phone in, an idea like this where the complete elimination of accessories and still charging your phone and never running down of battery. Me being a very close millennial, I can say I'm pretty much most on my cell phone on devices that actually run on battery. And one of my constant worries is very similar to anybody who owns an electric car. That's a range anxiety, or how long is my device going to last on battery. the solution that they actually came up with was so ahead of their time, I would say, that companies like Samsung and Apple, in the most recent news, are actually trying to develop similar technologies where they can incorporate what the students are actually put in terms of concept is actually being worked on by top manufacturing companies. This shows that the kind of ideas that students actually come up with, the kind of website designs and the app designs that I've seen for a lot of projects in the last 2 semesters that I've been part of, are so visually beautiful that it actually challenges me to actually improve my own thought process in terms of how could this be better presented. If I'm designing a website or an app for maybe a company that I end up working for, or a client that I am doing a certain work for, I think a lot more in terms of not just in terms of aesthetics, but also in terms of usability to the client themselves. As uh, I might think a lot in terms of a developer perspective, but what I should actually be doing is we're looking at more of a client perspective, because they are the end users. Their ease of use, their understanding is more of a priority than me coming from a different background. So putting this all of this put together is what the students have actually come up with. And the kind of learnings that I have had in the last 2 semesters, or probably from January, has been so immense that uh, I can actually start employing them in my day-to-day use, and actually start feeling an improvement in the way that I think, and the way I present a lot of stuff to uh, my own friends, or in terms of presentations that I actually do in my classes. Professor, I hand it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. An observation I have in doing this particular program is that I do other courses where I do lectures, but this course where I do not do lectures, I devote more time to this course and this program than I do to any of my other courses individually. And having an aide like Aaron help me is very, very important. So when you consider doing a program like this, where you delegate to the other students, it's not as easy as you might think. All right, there's a lot of other work you have to do with them. So I think the essence of this is the diversity, mixing the students together to solve problems on these multidisciplinary teams. And I think you're probably doing quite a bit of this too. And I think how we do it a bit differently might be helpful to you. All right, let's go to the next slide. So I know you're all waiting for the quiz. All right, now let's go to the next slide. So what we like to do, so Dr. Joseph and I would like to ask you a number of questions and get your comments. All right, or other comments that you might have. So I'm going to begin with the first question. So how do you do diversity on your class project teams? So can we get comments from the audience? There's quite a number of you that have joined us, and I'd like to hear from all of you.
Well, this is Arlene from the University of Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Rio Piedras campus. We did a pretty nice like entrepreneurship weekend, a startup weekend among the students from the business school and the architecture school, and it was marvelous. It was a wonderful experience for them and for the professors. So,
all right, thank you. Thank you. Any comments? Any other comments from the audience?
Well, being in a small Catholic university at the base of the MetLife Stadium, we catered to a lot of underserved communities. So we had built-in diversity. So never a problem having a diverse group. The challenge I had, and I was very involved with our innovation lab, which is exactly what you were doing. The challenge we had was getting support from the university to get behind this project. Also, I love what you were doing by combining, breaking up the silos of the School of Teaching, the School of Business, the School of Computer Science, and mixing, if you can get professors from other disciplines to get involved. That's a great support system you got going there.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments on our first question?
What I try to do is to balance gender within teams, and they has to be teams of different mayors. Not all of them are the same mayor. So that's more or less how do I do it in my class. I teach a class of strategic management.
Oh, yeah, I have it difficult to do at the very beginning because I cannot do it perfectly. So sometimes I have maybe 2 students from one school on one team. That's inevitable. We actually have more business students than all the other students. So inevitably, I always have 1 or 2 business students on each team. Yeah, so it could be a bit difficult.
I had my challenges myself because in Rio Piedras campus, we have a lot of women. So to get, one male into the group, it was really a challenge.
Thank you. So Dr. Joseph, can you do the next question, please?
Certainly. So the second question, I want to say thanks to all of you who are in attendance. I'm encouraged by the number. Now, the second question has to do with how do you celebrate diversity on the teams that you have had, and how frequently do you do it? Anyone can answer that question, first, second, or third, fourth, or so on. So how do you celebrate diversity, and how on your project teams, and how often do you do it? Anyone?
So do any of you celebrate like at the end of the semester, or even at the beginning of the semester, or at mid-semester? How do you engage them further on the project that this is an experience unlike other experiences in your schools or university? What might you be doing?
This is Steve from California. I like to have them bring their own cultures. In our school, we had people from all around the world, as PACE does, right? So it's really great for them to make them feel comfortable to talk about their home culture, their homeland, I use music a lot. Music tends to break the ice a little bit with diversity, but a lot of people are a little, I don't want to say embarrassed, but uncomfortable sometimes with their diversity. And for me, it was a constant effort to get everybody to feel comfortable with being who they were, not blending into the American situation, right?
What I do with the breakfasts is I ask the students to bring in their own breakfast food, all right? Get a little bit of diversity there. And then also with the lunches and with the dinners sometimes that we do at the university. And any other comments on the second question? Let's go to the third question. Go ahead.
Well, just to contribute, because I teach music at the American College, and we were predominantly Greek for a long time, and now we have a lot more study abroads come in, including people and a lot more transgender people, and we see a lot more diversity in our classroom. But we have a project where we do a group project, and they are from different majors, and I kind of assign them to make sure a boy and a girl and maybe somebody from a different culture, like an American study abroad, would be put in with the Greek group, or different. Try to mix it up as much as possible. We're still predominantly Greek, but we have a project of music and identity. And so the music thing helps us talk about who we are and how we perceive ourselves, and to open that conversation. And sometimes people are really intimidated. They don't want to be different. And they're intimidated because they're from Albania, which is a neighboring country, and they're not from Greece, or but it's very interesting to see the dynamic that happens. But I have had bullying going on in my classroom, people trying to intimidate other people and things like that. So it can be a little bit awkward, but the whole point of their group project is to talk about their identity, and for us to see that in our differences we are the same. We all approach music in the same way, basically, even if we listen to different kinds of music in our identity.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I like the idea of celebrate. I hadn't thought about it, but I think it's a great word. I hadn't really thought to celebrate the first day of class, or to make a celebration, because they're so worried about their exams at the end that they're not celebrating. But it's a nice thing to think about.
Yeah. I'm fortunate because the dean has a grant pool for us to do projects like this. Take students to breakfast, take students to dinner, and so on. So we're fortunate in having them. But your comments also lead to the third question. How do you engage and help introverted, shy students that might be on your project teams? Inevitably, there are the lone wolves that come on the teams, and they really do not want to work with the other students. What have been your experiences there? How do you motivate them to be productive on the teams? What do you do?
I think making sure everybody has a role, instead of everybody just in the group together, but make sure that roles are assigned.
Okay.
Yeah, usually I invite students to express their preferences in terms of how to contribute to the exercise or whatever. And then you discover people who has some talent that may not be like talking or whatever, but they can do other things that are very important. So it's important like to interview them and explore them, what you are good at, and then ask them to contribute to the team in a way that it's consistent with what they enjoy to do. So
Thank you. Dr. Joseph, can you do the next question, please?
Yeah, the next question has to do with early on, Dr. Lawler mentioned mentor-professor. So this question has to do with mentor-professor, and how as a mentor-professor do you engage or even help non-performing students that might be on your project teams, and how might you help other performing students on those teams? And we would like to know what you think about it. Having done teams myself, I guess I can start off by saying I may have done things a little bit differently than Dr. Lawler, because within teams that I have created in the past and still create, is that the team can really divorce the student. Of course, in that, it's like a marriage, and before the actual divorce takes place, there is a counseling phase. And so I would like to know what you think about it, generally about the question. As mentor-professor, how do you engage, even help non-performing students that might be on a project team, and how might you help those who are really doing a good job on the teams?
Comments from the audience?
I like to just show my vulnerability, be goofy, just try to get on their level and make them feel comfortable. Just being silly. I mean, it always seems to work, me being a goof in the classroom, because I don't want them to, think I'm better than them, or they can't approach me, or, it's not, I don't often succeed, but I try.
That's interesting. Very interesting, Stephen. Other comments? Other comments?
Well, sometimes I interview those students individually and try to identify what is the problem. And I'm trying to be to show empathy to whatever situation they have. And in some cases, I even make them to work alone. I take them out because they sometimes they have this personal situation or problems that we don't know. And usually in these days, in fact, that is very common. We are on a state university, and we have a diverse population that come from different economic backgrounds. And so we do have very poor people that they don't have a lot of, facilities. And we must be, we must show some empathy to those students.
Yeah.
So that's
especially with the pandemic. Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Any other comments on this?
I just had a question concerning that, a non-performing member. We had a problem in a group project, dance and music in collaboration, where the dancers didn't engage, and the musician got an F along with the dancers who didn't engage. And the musician was very angry about that because he felt like I did my part. But the point was, it was a group project, and the whole group has to succeed.
Yeah.
And this was, a big problem. I didn't agree with the idea of the group grade. Do you give a group grade?
Yes, 50% of the grade is for individual performance and 50% is for group performance. So when they did their presentations yesterday, I told them that I was looking at the presentation in terms of what they did as a team. Individually, they also do blogs. They do the midterm and final reflection journals. They do the contracts. They have to be in class, and that's part of the other 50% of the grade. All right, but the contribution of the team is evaluated as a performance of the team, not any one person. So I don't have a lone wolf, doing all the work and the other students not doing the work, or vice versa. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Interesting.
I have a question.
Sure.
Regarding the contracts. Do you have the deliverables per member or per group?
No. The contracts are by picture a spreadsheet. So it's by each member, and it goes deliverable. It goes the actual tasks, the deliverables, and the deliverable dates by each class. And that's the theory of it. It doesn't always go perfectly, but it's definitely by each member of the team. But all the other members of the team have to agree to those contracts. So
Okay.
it's all done by the team. And then I approve it too, but I don't really criticize it. I just kind of say, well, can you be more specific? Because I find students put in, if you recall, one of the items in the final presentations is financial. And they might put their task as financial. And I say, well, what does that mean? It has to be a little bit more specific, so it's, measurable at least. Yeah, so that's one of the controls I have. It's not always perfect because they don't always be as specific as I would like them to be. But it's an attempt to manage the teams, for them to manage the teams and for me to manage the class. All right, so the last question is, how do you celebrate at the end of the semester with your students on the teams? Well, what I do, so yesterday I invited them to have lunch with me after the pandemic at my favorite restaurant in the city, which is an actual Spanish restaurant. It's called Sevilla. So I invited them to that. I also give them these certificates. Arun, my aide, who presented earlier, he developed these beautiful certificates for them. It has certificate of outstanding recognition, frameable and such. So I do those things. I asked the dean to join the final presentations, make it a bit prestigious. And I also told you how I invite other professors and students to join the final presentations as well. And then I also send them emails, personal emails, thanking them for what they did in the semester. So that's what I do. Are there any comments from any of you on this, on what you do at the end of the semester?
I don't do anything, but I like your ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Especially the dinner. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, if you come to New York, you're welcome to have dinner with me. Okay. Can you go to the next slide, Arun? So are there any other questions on our presentation? Because we're about to conclude. All right, if there are no other questions, you could also email me questions if you'd like the URLs of the book that I talked about. Please email me. Go to the next slide, Arun.
Excuse me, are you going to share the presentation?
Yeah, it should be available from NYU.
Okay, wonderful.
And I'll probably do a paper for the journal if they're having the journal again. All right. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Stay healthy. I enjoyed talking to all of you today. All right. Goodbye.
Have a good one, all of you.
Great. Very helpful.
Bye. Be
Bye-bye.
safe.
Thank you.